currently, we have quite significant areas of cooperation with the European Union. And during this morning's program, we heard an extremely interesting account about the current cooperation, which was given by the representative of the European Commission in India. I, in my presentation, suggested 3 additional measures which we could consider taking. And I was glad to hear in the subsequent discussion from the European Commission representative that some progress is already being made in regard to the first of these. So what were these 3 proposals? The first proposal was that we should enable the European Union to participate in the International Solar Alliance. Currently, their participation faces a limitation, because the program is limited to countries that are tropical countries. And with the exception of France, which has some island territories in the Indian Ocean, none of the other European countries are tropical. But they are interested in cooperating, and therefore, what can we do to bring this forward? So I suggested that we should change the rules of the International Solar Alliance to enable countries which are outside the tropics to also participate. And I was glad to learn later from the EC participant that steps are being contemplated which will make the European Union a partner in the International Solar Agency program. My second proposal was for trilateral cooperation: India, European Union, Africa. Now, both India and the European Union have many programs of cooperation with Africa in the climate change area. African students and experts, trainees, they come to India to follow courses, for example, in forestry or in solar energy and so on and so forth in India. The European Union also has many independent programs, and they also provide a lot of finance to African countries. So what I felt was that there are advantages in trilateral cooperation, which would enable the European Union to use a part of the funds which they have set aside for cooperation with Africa to enable African students and trainees to take up courses in India, and which would enable Indian experts to go to Africa for purposes of cooperation. What are the advantages of this? The advantages are, first, that training courses in India and academic courses in India cost just a fraction of what similar courses would cost in Europe. The second advantage is that in some areas, our experience is more relevant to African countries. For example, tropical forestry, or solar energy for villages, etc., which are not on the grid, off-grid solar. Our conditions are more similar to African conditions, and therefore it could be more relevant. In other words, if you have trilateral partnership, you'd get more bang for the buck, as they say. It would be much more cost-effective. In some cases, it would be more relevant. These would be European Union programs, so their flag would remain. At the same time, you could expand the scope of training and deputation of experts. The third proposal I had was for joint research in tackling tropical diseases, particularly vector-borne, that is, insect-borne diseases, such as malaria and dengue. Why? Why should this be of interest to the European Union, which does not have these diseases now? The reason is that as a result of global warming, you're going to see these vector-borne diseases coming up in Europe. Already we see that there's a rise in temperatures in Italy, in the Po Valley in Italy, you have the dengue mosquito. So you are going to see in future these diseases migrating from Asia and Africa to Europe. So the European Union should take a greater interest in tackling these diseases and join hands with our own experts and institutions to work out medicines which would tackle these diseases, work out methods of preventing the spread of these diseases.